Perhaps there are some things I simply chose not to share with you, a sentiment once expressed by Pernell Roberts. The actor who so brilliantly portrayed Adam Cartwright on Bonanza projected an image of a perfect gentleman, composed, confident, and exuding an undeniable charisma. However, beneath that polished veneer was a man of profound conviction, someone who would never shy away from speaking his truth, no matter the repercussions. While the majority of Hollywood's elite during his era opted for diplomacy, hiding their true feelings behind forced smiles and veiled opinions, Pernell blazed a different trail, one where he valued raw honesty far more than fleeting popularity. This principle held firm, even if it led to lost friendships, missed roles, and a tarnished reputation in the industry. At countless Tinseltown soirees, he made it abundantly clear that there were certain personalities he simply could not tolerate. He had a particular distaste for actors whose arrogance, duplicity, or lack of moral character clashed with his own deeply ingrained principles. And on this occasion, we are delving into the 5 prominent names that reportedly topped his private list, along with the explosive stories behind each of their conflicts. Once you hear these accounts, your perception of these celebrated stars will be irrevocably changed. But before we get to the heart of the matter, if you hold Pernell Roberts in high regard or have a fondness for the iconic legends of classic westerns, we invite you to subscribe to our channel because the reality behind Hollywood's golden age is far more compelling than the fictions it produced. Pernell Elvin Roberts Jr. was born on May 18, 1928, in the quaint town of Waycross, Georgia. It was a quiet corner of the Deep South, where survival during the Great Depression was an arduous daily struggle. He was the only son of Pernell Roberts Sr., a dedicated sales manager for Dr. Pepper, and Minnie Myrtle Morgan Roberts, a loving mother who fostered his innate sense of curiosity and creativity. Even in his youth, Pernell was distinct. He wasn't drawn to the typical boyish mischief or sports that captivated most of his peers. Instead, he discovered his passion in music and performance, playing the horn for his school band and appearing at various church events. Yet, despite possessing a natural gift for the stage, a career in acting wasn't initially part of his life's blueprint. After completing high school, he enrolled at Georgia Tech, setting his sights on a more conventional career in engineering. But he quickly came to realize that his true passion couldn't be found in blueprints and equations. In 1946, he made the decision to join the United States Marine Corps, serving his country for 2 years. While in uniform, he found solace in the familiar cadence of music. Playing both the tuba and horn in the Marine Corps band, a practice that kept his artistic spirit vibrant. This artistic outlet sustained him even within the structured environment of military life. When his tour of duty concluded, Pernell opted for a leap of faith and enrolled at the University of Maryland. It was there that the stage once again beckoned to him, and he dove headfirst into the world of student theater. He soon found a much deeper connection to acting, one that felt less like a simple hobby and more like his ultimate calling. Before long, Roberts made the audacious decision to leave college and commit himself entirely to chasing his dream. He set forth on the unpredictable but passion-fueled path that would cement his legacy as one of television's most unforgettable stars. In the early 1950s, Pernell Roberts took his ambitions to New York City, a place where talent and relentless determination were the most valuable assets one could possess. There, he gained admission to the prestigious American Academy of Dramatic Arts. He diligently refined his acting abilities while working a series of odd jobs just to cover his living expenses. It was a challenging period, but Pernell was not a man who easily surrendered. His unwavering patience was finally rewarded in 1952, when he secured his very first stage role in The Man Who Came to Dinner. Although it was a minor part, But it was the inaugural, pivotal move in a career that would prove to be extraordinary and, on occasion, defiantly unconventional. His was a professional journey defined less by celebrity and more by his steadfast refusal to follow any script other than his own. Following that initial brush with success, Pernell immersed himself completely in the world of theater. His authoritative voice and magnetic stage presence, combined with an unwavering dedication to each performance, swiftly set him apart. Soon, he was gracing the stage in some of history's most celebrated plays, like Macbeth, The Taming of the Shrew, and Romeo and Juliet. His work with the New York Shakespeare Festival cemented his reputation as a profound, passionate artist whose sheer depth could command the silence of an entire room. By the late 1950s, Hollywood had certainly started to pay attention. In 1958, Pernell made his cinematic debut in Desire Under the Elms, appearing alongside the great Sophia Loren and Burl Ives. A performance that unequivocally proved he could stand shoulder to shoulder with the industry's biggest stars. That very same year, he also appeared in The Sheepmen, a Western that gave a subtle nod to the genre that would soon come to shape his entire destiny. Over the course of the next year, he landed roles in popular television shows like The Virginian and Gunsmoke, methodically carving out his name in the industry. Then came the year 1959, the year that would change everything. Pernell Roberts was chosen to play Adam Cartwright, the intelligent and resolute eldest son on NBC's new series, Bonanza. The show became a phenomenon, rocketing to become one of television's most significant hits, and almost in an instant, Roberts was a household name. Every week, millions of viewers gathered to watch the adventures of the Cartwright family on the vast Ponderosa Ranch. And among the cast, it was Pernell's embodiment of quiet strength and sharp intellect that left an indelible impression on the audience. And yet, away from the spotlight and public praise, Roberts felt a growing internal conflict, a nagging sense that the character he was so famous for was a far cry from the man he was deep down. Pernell Roberts was simply not the kind of man to remain quiet when he felt something was fundamentally wrong. And on the set of Bonanza, that quality made him both a respected figure and one to be wary of. He frequently found himself in disagreement with the show's producers, deeply frustrated by what he perceived as superficial writing and a profound lack of complexity in his character, Adam Cartwright. From Roberts' perspective, the series had all the fame and acclaim one could wish for, but it offered little in the way of social substance or artistic challenge. So in 1965, after 6 highly successful seasons, and at the very apex of his fame, he made a choice that absolutely stunned the entertainment world. He walked away from it all. Many predicted it would be the end of his career, but Pernell was unafraid of starting over from nothing. He returned to his first true passion, the stage, while also taking on guest spots in a variety of television series. Determined to forge a career that was entirely on his own terms, his unwavering persistence eventually yielded results. By the late 1970s, he had secured the lead role in Trapper John, M.D., a role that earned him critical praise and endeared him to a whole new generation of television fans. But beneath that composed demeanor and thoughtful expression, Pernell still held very firm opinions, especially when it came to certain individuals he had worked with. And this brings us to the part of his life story that very few people have ever heard. The 5 actors Pernell Roberts genuinely could not abide, and the shocking reasons that fueled each of these conflicts. Once you hear them, you may never view these Hollywood legends in the same way again. Number 1. Michael Landon. In the beginning, Roberts' relationship with Bonanza's youngest cast member was cordial, perhaps even friendly. But as Landon's own ambition began to soar, so did the palpable tension between them. Charismatic and beloved by the public, Landon was rapidly becoming the show's golden child. Behind the scenes, however, Roberts saw a completely different person. A man who was manipulative, utterly self-absorbed, and fixated on maintaining control. As Landon's power on the set grew, he started to pen and direct episodes, frequently altering scenes to ensure his character, Little Joe, was always in the spotlight. A move that often came at the cost of his fellow actors. Roberts was incensed. Sources close to the production say he confronted Landon face-to-face, reportedly telling him, "Your goal isn't to improve the show, it's to inflate your own ego." From that moment forward, the two men exchanged words only when the script absolutely required it. Roberts loathed what he termed Landon's carefully crafted image of perfection, convinced that Landon was merely an actor who feigned depth for the cameras while actively shunning any genuine substance in his own life. So when Roberts ultimately walked away from Bonanza, Landon's deafening silence, his total failure to acknowledge the departure, served as the ultimate slap in the face. Many years later, as Michael Landon basked in the new wave of fame from Little House on the Prairie, Pernell Roberts couldn't help but let a biting comment slip. "It's just more of the same old story," he was quoted as saying. "He's still pretending to be a cowboy, still playing the saint." This was a razor-sharp remark that laid bare the profound resentment that had simmered for years. Number 2. Dan Blocker. Pernell's conflict with Dan, the actor who brought the gentle giant Hoss Cartwright to life, wasn't fueled by anger, but rather by a deep sense of disappointment. During the initial seasons of Bonanza, the two were allies, both being classically trained performers dedicated to infusing their roles with genuine depth and authenticity. However, as Roberts' clashes with the network executives became more public and intense, Blocker started to distance himself. Pernell interpreted this as a personal betrayal. He felt that Dan, of all people, should have stood shoulder to shoulder with him, particularly in his crusade against the show's superficial scripts and its insensitive portrayal of Native American characters. Instead, Blocker chose the role of mediator, constantly trying to placate everyone rather than confronting the producers directly. In Pernell's eyes, this was a clear sign of a weak constitution. In a moment of sharp bitterness, he confessed to a reporter, Dan possessed the heart, but he lacked the backbone. He chose comfort over his own conscience. The friction between them boiled over one afternoon when Roberts, enraged by what he deemed a demeaning script, abruptly walked off the set in the middle of a scene. When Blocker continued with the scene, Pernell confronted him afterward, his voice low but firm. "You had a choice. You always have a choice." After that exchange, their friendship began to irrevocably disintegrate. Though Blocker never publicly disparaged Roberts, he also never once came to his defense. The unspoken words between them were deafening, and it was that profound silence that inflicted the deepest wound. Number 3. Chuck Connors. This specific rivalry didn't originate on the Ponderosa, but it raged with just as much intensity. Connors, the celebrated star of The Rifleman, encountered Roberts at a charity gala honoring the legends of Western television. Towering, self-assured, and beloved by legions of fans, Connors commanded an undeniable presence wherever he went. However, according to eyewitnesses, his conduct behind the scenes painted a starkly different picture. He was said to be condescending to the crew, treating everyone as if they were merely supporting characters in the grand production of his own life. For someone like Pernell Roberts, who held respect and humility in the highest regard, such blatant arrogance was simply unforgivable. Roberts was deeply unimpressed with what he witnessed that evening. Sources claim he observed quietly from a corner as Chuck Connors openly berated a young assistant for a minor error, a moment that exposed a side of Connors that was rarely seen by the public. When the two men finally came face to face backstage, Roberts did not mince his words. The exchange was heated and swift. Roberts allegedly branded Connors a phony, accusing him of prioritizing fame far above common decency and respect. Connors immediately shot back, deriding Roberts as a resentful quitter who was unable to manage his own success. That fiery exchange signaled the definitive end of their friendship. From that point forward, Roberts privately dismissed Connors as being all hat, no soul. A man utterly consumed by his public image, but lacking any real substance. In Roberts' eyes, Connors personified all the failings of Hollywood, exhibiting charm for the camera while being cruel behind the scenes. At number 4, we have Lauren Green. Out of all of Roberts' many disputes, none was more profound than his feud with the actor who portrayed his on-screen father, Ben Cartwright. For millions of viewers, their on-screen relationship appeared both warm and authentic. Yet, the reality away from the cameras was a completely different story. Roberts often described their dynamic as suffocating, stating that Green, both on and off the screen, possessed an overbearing sense of control that he simply could not stand. Roberts grew to resent Green's apparent satisfaction with the show's predictable formula, its neatly packaged endings, its simplistic morality, and its complete detachment from any social relevance. While Roberts yearned to elevate Bonanza into something more significant, with storylines that explored moral complexity and human truth, Green remained dogmatically loyal to the network's conservative agenda. From Roberts' perspective, this wasn't professional dedication, it was artistic capitulation. He chose comfort over courage, Pernell once confided to a friend. What had started as a difference in artistic vision soon spiraled into a personal conflict. Roberts was convinced that Green viewed him as a threat, a younger actor who was unafraid to challenge scripts or question the director's choices. On the set, the tension between them became palpably colder with every season that passed. Roberts despised how Green's authority molded the cast, observing how everyone, especially the younger actors, seemed to follow his lead unquestioningly. By 1965, he had reached his breaking point. He walked away from Bonanza, turning his back on one of the largest paychecks in television history, choosing to prioritize his integrity over comfort. When questioned about his departure, Roberts' reply was both simple and perfectly characteristic of him. I just couldn't spend the rest of my life taking my hat off and saying, "Yes, Pa." In the public's perception, Lauren Green was America's favorite television father, wise, dependable, and endlessly kind. But to Pernell Roberts, he was the embodiment of everything he loathed about Hollywood's aversion to taking risks. Where others perceived warmth, Roberts saw only complacency. A man who was far too willing to play it safe and too content to maintain the status quo. And at number 5, we have James Drury, known for his role as the stoic star of The Virginian. Drury's disagreement with Roberts wasn't rooted in acting styles or fame. It was a fundamental clash of personal values. Pernell had consistently been vocal about the issues he held dear. He openly condemned racism and the Vietnam War, as well as what he saw as Hollywood's cowardice for silencing voices of dissent. Drury, on the other hand, was a proud conservative who firmly believed that politics had absolutely no place in the world of entertainment. Their ideological differences came to a dramatic head in the 1970s during a televised panel discussion about the future of television. Roberts passionately condemned the networks for deliberately avoiding real-world issues, reducing Westerns to what he called comfort food for the masses. Drury wasted no time in pushing back, retorting, "The public doesn't want sermons, they want escape." The discussion swiftly escalated and became personal. Witnesses reported that when the event concluded, the two men refused to shake hands. Sometime later, Roberts confided in a close friend, stating, "Drury was never just an actor. He was a mouthpiece for the status quo. What infuriated him the most was Drury's silence during the civil rights movement, a period when his voice could have made a real difference. In Roberts's view, he believed that remaining silent amidst injustice was not a neutral act, but a form of betrayal. Pernell Roberts refused to conform to expectations. He was a man of intense conviction, ready to sacrifice comfort for the sake of his principles. However, the bold, outspoken, and resolute persona known to Hollywood contrasted sharply with his private life, which told a different tale, one defined by heartbreak. It was a story of loneliness and the silent battles of a man who held himself to the same high standards of honesty he demanded from the world. Pernell Roberts's personal life was as tumultuous as his professional career was daring. He was married a total of 4 times. Each union was marked by its own distinct struggles. His first marriage to Vera, a theater professor, commenced in 1951 and blessed him with a son. His name was Jonathan Christopher Roberts. Although Pernell adored his son, his burgeoning career and restless nature made it difficult for him to remain grounded in family life. By 1959, the marriage had dissolved. While he continued to be a part of his son's life, their bond was frequently strained by physical distance and emotional walls. His subsequent 2 marriages, to Judith Unalier and then to Corinna Sack, also concluded in divorce. Friends and professional colleagues frequently noted that Pernell was a man who deeply valued his personal freedom and struggled with emotional intimacy. Known for being intensely private, he kept his most profound emotions carefully concealed, which inadvertently created barriers between him and the people who cared for him most. Perhaps his most devastating heartbreak occurred in 1989 when his only son, Jonathan, was tragically killed in a motorcycle accident at the young age of 38. This immense loss left Pernell utterly shattered. Those close to him said he was profoundly changed by the event, and though he rarely spoke of it in public, the weight of that grief remained with him for the remainder of his days. In his final years, Pernell discovered a measure of solace with his 4th wife, Eleanor Crissell, whom he wed in 1997. Their union lasted until his passing, providing him with companionship and tranquility. Even so, the lingering shadows of lost loves, failed marriages, and the crushing sorrow of losing a child never completely faded. Pernell Roberts was a man who lived entirely on his own terms, fearless, candid, and uncompromising. Yet the independence he so fiercely pursued came at a significant personal price. Underneath his confident public facade was a man burdened by a lifetime of silent sorrow. Away from the cameras, Pernell Roberts's life was a complex tapestry woven with love, loss, and private battles that very few people ever witnessed. During his later years, he consciously chose a life removed from the Hollywood spotlight, prioritizing peace and privacy above all else. After his departure from Bonanza, at the height of its popularity, he persisted with his acting career in television and theater, but strictly according to his own principles. In the 1980s, he achieved renewed acclaim with Trapper John, M.D., mesmerizing a new generation of viewers with his powerful presence and profound acting skills. Even after his time in the limelight began to fade, Roberts' uncompromising nature never wavered. He was intensely private and deeply reflective, choosing to avoid fan conventions and seldom granting interviews, instead dedicating his energy to music, social justice, and the people he held dearest. Beneath this composed exterior, he was fighting a private war against cancer. On January 24, 2010, Pernell Roberts passed away at his Malibu home at the age of 81 from pancreatic cancer, an illness he confronted with remarkable courage and understated dignity. His passing signified the conclusion of an era, as he was the last surviving original cast member of Bonanza. Although he never actively pursued fame or engaged in Hollywood's political games, Roberts' impact on both television and the art of acting was immense. He was a trailblazer who had the courage to walk away from a hugely successful show because it no longer met his artistic and ethical standards. He was a trailblazer, addressing social and racial injustices long before it became a popular cause. He championed the need for substantial and authentic roles, advocating not solely for his own career but for all actors. Admirers recall him as more than just the formidable. They remember him as a man of profound conviction and unwavering integrity. His enduring legacy is defined not only by the characters he portrayed, but also by the principled stance he took, the audacious risks he embraced, and the profound lessons he imparted to the world. He taught us that occasionally the most courageous action one can take is to simply step away. Although Pernell Roberts is no longer with us, his voice, both on the screen and in his personal life, still echoes deeply with everyone who admired his immense talent and respected his steadfast principles. Upon his passing, he bequeathed more than just memories. His estate was valued at an estimated $10 million. To the outside world, Pernell Roberts' career appeared to be the pinnacle of success, a lifetime of dedication in Hollywood culminating in both fame and fortune. Yet for Pernell himself, none of those material gains ever held true significance. Wealth had minimal allure, and the spotlight of fame never truly captivated him. Even at the zenith of Bonanza's popularity, where he commanded a salary of nearly $10,000 an episode, making him one of the top-earning actors of the 1960s, he experienced a persistent inner turmoil, an unyielding desire for a life with greater substance and meaning. As audiences lauded his refined performances and the glittering facade of television stardom, Pernell was privately grappling with the moral compromises demanded by the industry. He detested the way art was commodified and how genuine emotion and authenticity were diluted and repackaged for mainstream appeal. His ambition was not to be a celebrity, it was to lead a life of purpose. For a while, he went through the motions, playing the role expected of him. He donned the costumes, delivered his lines perfectly, and graciously accepted the acclaim, but his conscience would never permit him to become complacent. His personal convictions were far more profound than any script he was ever given. While his fans were enthralled by the character of Adam Cartwright, Pernell was marching in Selma, Alabama, beside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., not as a Hollywood star, but as a man driven by a moral imperative to confront injustice. This was not an act for the cameras. It was his authentic life. When he returned to the set, he continued to challenge the established system. He persistently questioned the lack of diversity on the crew, the practice of casting white actors in Native American parts, and the frustratingly slow pace of social progress. His objections frequently fell on deaf ears, but he refused to be silenced. His family and close friends observed that while he did find some allies, it was never sufficient to quell the passionate fire for justice that burned within him. Pernell Roberts had the option to remain, to construct a vast empire, to indulge in a life of luxury, and to simply ride the wave of his fame, yet he ultimately chose personal integrity over public adulation. His departure was not an act of pride, but a decision born from a relentless pursuit of authenticity and a life with genuine purpose.